When cinemagoers left the auditorium as the closing credits rolled on the sixth James Bond movie, they weren't happy. There was no trademark spy gadgets in the film, there was little in the way of special effects, and Sean Connery, the actor who had made the role famous, had been replaced. But it was the last few minutes of the movie that left the audience shuffling out with their shoulders down that likely helped seal the fate of this film among movie reviewers of the day. In this episode of the channel, I'm looking at the James Bond classic On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Following the release of You Only Live Twice in 1967, Sean Connery walked away from playing James Bond 007, a character based on the books of Ian Fleming. Eon Productions did their best to convince Connery to stay, with producer Cubby Broccoli offering the Scottish actor whatever it would take for him to continue playing the most famous spy in movie history. But Connery wasn't having any of it. With their eye on the next Bond movie, Eon Productions knew it had to move fast to find a replacement. Now, I'm not sure who all the contenders were at the time, but apparently there were 400 likely candidates for the role. Among them were John Richardson, Dutchman Hans de Vries, Australian Robert Campbell, Scotsman Anthony Rogers, and Australian George Lazenby. Actor Timothy Dalton was asked to audition for the part, but counted himself out, saying he was too young. He was 25 years old at the time and didn't want to follow in the footsteps of Sean Connery. They were, after all, very big shoes to fill. However, Dalton did join the franchise to play Bond in the mid-1980s. What we do know is that George Lazenby got the part, despite having minimal acting credits, although he did appear in a TV commercial for Fry's Chocolate Cream, which apparently caught the eye of Broccoli. The two had also previously met while having their hair cut. George Lazenby was born on September 5, 1939 in Goulburn, New South Wales, to railway worker George Lazenby and his wife Sheila, who worked in a retail store. Young Lazenby went to Goulburn Public School and served in the Australian Army. In fact, he was in the Australian Army's Special Forces. He actually is a trained killer with advanced knowledge of martial arts. Lazenby moved to London in 1963, got a job selling cars, and was spotted by a talent agent who convinced him to be a model. He was quickly earning £25,000 a year. That's around £500,000 in today's money. And in 1966, he was voted top model of the year. Lazenby appeared in TV commercials for Fry's Turkish Delight and Lion's Ice Cream, among others. However, to go from minor non-speaking acting roles to the lead in a major motion picture is quite a leap. Still, he went in with both feet, asking to do most of his own stunts, and this did lead to production problems after he broke an arm. Ironically, this accident happened during a rooftop chase scene that was cut from the final movie. That's why a henchman is seen removing Lazenby's cape in one scene. His arm was in plaster. In July 1969, after filming was complete, Lazenby returned home to Australia to see his parents. He apparently told them he had 18 movie offers to consider, but said they were all commercial rubbish. He told the media at the time that he'd like to play Australian outlaw Ned Kelly in a movie, and that he made better money acting in commercials. On Her Majesty's Secret Service was released on December 18, 1969, and raked in $82 million in box office receipts. The film had a budget of just $7 million. The movie opens with Bond driving a 1969 Aston Martin DBS, and a fun chase develops between Bond and Contessa Teresa Di Vincenzo. The scenario was repeated in 1995's GoldenEye. It's interesting to look at the opening sequence today because there are only extreme close-ups of George Lazenby, and for a while there the audience must have been wondering, is this Sean Connery? Isn't it Sean Connery? We've read Lazenby was doing it, but this looks like Sean Connery, and sure enough it is Lazenby, but for a moment there moviegoers were left wondering. Anyway, Teresa, or Tracy as she's also known in the film, is played wonderfully by Diana Rigg. She made her name in the 1960s TV series The Avengers. Bond lets Tracy overtake him and moments later finds her car parked up at the beach. She's seen walking into the ocean fully clothed. Bond races to save her and is attacked by what turns out to be her minders. He knocks the guys out in a protracted fight, while Tracy, a society girl who's been pushing her luck, leaves in her car. As she does, Lazenby tells the audience there's a new Bond in town.
This never happened to the other fella.
Rigg plays the daughter of Mark and Draco, who runs a European crime operation. Impressed by Bond, Draco offers 007 $1 million to marry his daughter, hoping it will bring some stability to her troubled life. Bond politely declines, but does offer to be her companion if Draco helps him track down arch-enemy Ernst Stavro Blofeld, played this time around by Telly Savalas. He went on to play TV cop Kojak. Who loves your baby?
Who loves you, baby?
Blofeld is the head of an international crime syndicate, and Bond has unfinished business with him. However, Bond's boss, M, has other ideas for what Bond should be doing, and so 007 dictates a letter of resignation to Miss Moneypenny. However, she writes it up as a request for 2 weeks' holiday. Back on the hunt, Bond discovers Blofeld is laying claim to the title of Count Balthazar Beauchamp, but Blofeld's claim is dubious. So, posing as College of Arms genealogist Sir Hilary Bray, Bond travels to meet Blofeld at Piet's Gloria, Schildhorn, high in the Swiss Alps, to establish Blofeld's family tree. Here, Bond is introduced to a dozen young ladies, the so-called Angels of Death, who are being treated for their food allergies. However, Bond discovers they're unknowingly being brainwashed to release a biological weapon when they get home. Blofeld the philanthropist, helping people with one hand while preparing to harm them with the other. To stop Blofeld's dastardly plan, Bond tries to lure him off the mountain, so he can be spirited away without the Swiss authorities knowing. Blofeld smells a rat, works out he's talking to Bond, despite Lazenby's voice being dubbed by actor George Baker, and locks Bond in the resort's cable car wheelhouse. He escapes by shimmying along a cable, and with a hop, skip and a jump, ends up skiing down the hill, chased by Blofeld and his merry men, in what turns out to be one of two very exciting ski sequences. All this, though, happens 90 minutes into the film, so we have to wait quite a while for any real action to take place. It's really more of a love story up until this point, rather than a spy action thriller. Interestingly, a part of the chase sees Bond down to one ski, a scene that was repeated in A View to a Kill when Roger Moore played James Bond. Anyway, Bond reaches the local village and bumps into, you guessed it, Tracy.
James.
They escape in her car. Bond falls in love with her during the course of one night, like you do, and he proposes marriage. Amazingly, she agrees. Meanwhile, Blofeld's henchmen continue hunting for Bond. There's another ski chase, and a man falls into a bobsleigh machine.
He had lots of guts.
Trace is captured, and Bond escapes back to London for a shower and a shave. And before you can say shaken, not stirred, he returns to Switzerland with Draco and his team of hired killers to attack Blofeld's mountain base. And while that's being bombed and riddled with bullets, James Bond searches the building to rescue Tracy. But don't worry, it all ends up happily ever after, at least for about 10 minutes. Because moments after getting married, Tracy is shot and killed.
It's Blofeld.
And there, the film ends with a sad and sorry Bond holding his dead wife in his arms, and a sad song begins. John Barry's score is top notch, of course. There's 21 tracks on the soundtrack album, 2 of which didn't appear in the film, and it really is a fine selection of music. But looking back, it seems the movie was rebooting the franchise, laying new ground for a new actor. For a start, a theme song that would typically climb the pop charts to help promote the film had been dispensed with. Previous hit ballads were performed by stars of the day such as Matt Monro, Nancy Sinatra, and the wonderful Shirley Bassey. This one used an instrumental synth track, great for us synth fans, but hardly one for radio airplay. Apparently, the title, On Her Majesty's Secret Service, was too hard to work into the lyrics of a song, and so someone thought, stuff it, instrumental! In addition, there were no gadgets to get Bond out of a tight spot, no cars with machine guns or ejector seats, no trick briefcases, no rocket launching cigarettes, no miniaturized homing beacons hidden in shoes, or jetpacks. There was none of it. Much like Daniel Craig's first outing as Bond in 2006's Casino Royale, Lazenby's Bond relied on his wits, strength and stamina to beat the baddie and get the girl. And I'm not sure that's what the movie-going public wanted to see in 1969. We can also draw a comparison with Craig's Casino Royale, as the love of Bond's life in that film also dies at the end of the movie, but this time we see Bond shoot the man he holds responsible, so moviegoers left the theatre with a spring in their step. I guess Eon Productions learnt its lesson. It was also a twist of fate that Lazenby ended up with On Her Majesty's Secret Service at all. Had Eon Productions' plans come to pass, Connery would have appeared in that film, and Lazenby's film would have been You Only Live Twice. Legal wrangles meant the films had to be swapped. Now, You Only Live Twice would have been a great way to introduce Lazenby, because the opening scene shows Bond being shot and killed. There's an obit notice, and he's buried at sea, only to reappear alive and well in a submarine, and to be honest, that's where Lazenby could have stepped in. But watching On Her Majesty's Secret Service today, it stands up as one of the finest Bond movies ever made. This was a different Bond, a new lead actor, a new director in Peter Hunt, and a storyline that more closely matched Fleming's book. On Her Majesty's Secret Service is gritty. It shows one man against the might of an international crime organisation and against the wishes of his boss. He's vulnerable. For the main part, Bond is on his own in this movie, apart from the support he got from the criminal fraternity led by Draco. In my opinion, Lazenby delivers the goods. You can see the stress in this character. He brings realism to the role, and he picks up where Connery left off. It's just a shame that George Lazenby didn't continue playing Bond, but reading media reports of the day, it seems he just didn't want to do it again. Once was enough for him, and that's fine. Perhaps he got bad advice, or maybe being a trained killer having served in the forces, pretending to be a spy, pretending to be a killer, pretending to do martial arts instead of really doing it, maybe that just wasn't for him. Anyway, we all missed out when he walked away. But it did throw another spanner in the works at Eon Productions, who had to start their search for James Bond all over again. Thankfully, Sean Connery came out of James Bond retirement and did the role in Diamonds Are Forever, which featured a hit song by Shirley Bassey. Now, if you've never liked James Bond movies because of the silly jokes or the ridiculous gadgets and unrealistic stunts that would leave most of us calling for an ambulance, then this is the Bond movie for you. And if you like Daniel Craig as Bond, then take a step back in time and hunt down On Her Majesty's Secret Service. I'm sure you won't be disappointed. Thank you for watching my review of On Her Majesty's Secret Service. Do leave a comment below if you've seen this movie and tell me what you think of it, or mention the James Bond film you prefer to watch most. Thank you so much for watching the channel and this review. If you've enjoyed it, please like, share and subscribe. It really will help the channel grow. And that's it from me, Steve Hart. Have yourself a great week. See you soon. Bye-bye.